Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nicole with morningchores.com and today we're giving an introduction to composting. In today's video, we're going to talk about what composting is, the benefits of composting, and how to do it. So let's get started. So what is compost? Compost is decayed organic material that is then turned around and used as a plant fertilizer. There's lots of benefits to composting, not just for you and yourself, but for the environment and just the people around you in general. The first benefit of composting is you're reducing waste that you're sending to the landfill. An average of 30% of all garbage thrown out is food waste. And by composting some of that, you're reducing that food waste, creating more space in the landfills, and decreasing the amount of methane gas that is released from the landfills because of our food waste. The second benefit to composting is it's an easy way to implement extra nutrients to your garden. By composting this organic matter, once it's turned into soil, which we'll talk about later in the video, you can then turn around and add that to the soil in your garden, which your plants will benefit from. And the last benefit to composting is it helps save money. By turning your food scraps into nutrient-dense soil, you can then add that to your garden beds, your flower pots, and then you don't have to spend money buying fertilizers and other chemicals to enhance your soil. The supplies needed for composting are very simple and you probably already have them around your house. The first thing you need is a small composting container to keep in your kitchen. I'm using an antique ceramic pot. Whatever you use, you want to make sure it has some type of lid. A pickle jar, an old coffee canister, whatever you use, make sure it has a lid and it's small and convenient to use in your kitchen. Next item on the list is a large composting barrel to keep outside, and I'll talk more detail about how these are used in the whole process, but you want to choose something that is enclosed if you have a lot of wildlife and something with good airflow. If you plan on not using an outdoor composting bin and just have a compost pile, then you will need a pitchfork to help turn that compost and help it break down more efficiently and more quickly. So now that we've discussed what supplies you need to compost, let's talk about how to do it. How does this really work? So I like to keep my compost bin in a very convenient spot in my kitchen. For me, this is under my kitchen sink. That way, whenever I'm chopping up vegetables or if I'm cleaning out the fridge, I can just very easily grab it from under the sink and then put it right next to me. I usually have it right next to my cutting board. As I'm chopping vegetables, I'll throw the seeds and the scraps and the stems and all those things right in my compost bin. Some people keep theirs on the counter, but it's really key, as I said in the supply list, that you find one with a lid. We want to keep those fruit flies and those gnats out of our compost bin. So what can you throw in your compost bin? Mainly fruits and vegetables. When it comes to your kitchen food waste, those are the two food groups you want to stick to. You don't want to throw meat or cheese or anything like that, no grains. The only other thing that I throw in here aside from fruit and vegetable scraps is coffee grounds. And I can also throw my coffee filters in there because they're paper and they're biodegradable. So there's a few of those kind of odd end items that you can throw in your compost bin, but you mainly want to stick with fruit and veggie scraps. So here I have some really old summer squash that is going bad, and I found this in my fridge when I cleaned it out, so these I can throw right in there. You want to make sure that you remove any stickers from your produce because those will not break down. They usually have a plastic coating and they will not be good for your compost. So make sure you take those stickers off before you throw this in your compost bin. I have some grapes here, fruit, like I said, and then your greens. Let's say you have lettuce and you just didn't get it all eaten in time before it started going bad, you can throw this in your compost bin as well. Other items that work really well in your compost bin is yard waste. So this is something you would throw in your large outdoor composting bin, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but throwing grass clippings in there, dead leaves, so in the fall when you rake up all those leaves, you can add some of those to your compost bin, small twigs, different things like this are really helpful and beneficial to your compost bin as well. The key to keeping a good ratio of what's going in your compost bin is think of things in greens, browns, and then water, and you kind of want to keep equal parts of these. I don't do it in a scientific manner by any stretch of the imagination. I just kind of keep it kind of loosely noted in my mind of, hey, I've thrown a lot of green items in there, I need to throw a little bit of brown in there. That's pretty much all I do, and it's worked just fine. So your greens would be your kitchen waste. So that would be your veggie scraps, your fruit scraps, and your coffee grounds. Browns would be your yard waste. So that would be like dried leaves, twigs, grass clippings, and things like that. And then water. I personally have never had to add water to my compost bin because there's enough water from the veggie scraps from my kitchen. But if the contents in your compost bin does look a little dry, you may want to add a little bit of water, not a lot. You don't want it sopping wet, but you also don't want it dry. Just right to keep it moist so those items can break down more evenly and more quickly. So once I've added my kitchen scraps to my compost bin and my compost bin is full, it's time to head out to the large bin outside, and I'll show you what to do next. So now we are outside standing next to my two outdoor compost bins. When my indoor compost bin gets full, that's when I come out here and I dump the contents in here into the orange barrel. There's lots of different outdoor large containers that you can use for your compost bin. We chose to use this old pickle barrel that we purchased off of Craigslist, and my husband put it on a PVC pipe so we can rotate it if we need to. And then he also drilled holes in the sides to create airflow. It's really, really important that you have airflow, whatever container that you choose to use. We chose to go with a more closed off container because where we live, there's a lot of wildlife and we didn't want to attract any unwanted pests. So we decided to go with this style. Depending on where you live, you could go with something more open. I know people will build their outdoor compost bin out of pallets, and they'll make a square but leave the front open so that way they can have access to the composted material. If this is something you don't really want to mess with, you can always just create a compost pile at the edge of your woods or the edge of your property. And if you do go this route, you will need a pitchfork. A pitchfork will help you turn that composted material and kind of churn it every few days or a couple of weeks. So that way it's breaking down more evenly and more effectively. So when I come out here to dump my small compost bin in here, I just take the lid off. So as you can see in there, I have some apple cores and I have a lot of coffee grounds and different things like that. Not too pleasant to look at, but it shouldn't really stink. Because you're throwing mostly your clean food scraps, there's no meat, there's no dairy or anything like that. It's just fruit and veggies and coffee grounds, so it shouldn't really stink. But from here, I just dump my contents into the bin just like that. And then I place the lid back on. And that is it. So when this gets full, I then transfer the contents in the orange bin to the contents in my black bin over here. So when this gets full and I can no longer dump in here, I transfer all that to the black bin where it can continue sitting and decaying and turn into nice nutrient-dense soil for my garden and my flower beds. This bin has no bottom. It just sits on the ground. That helps it break down even more. It also helps with good airflow. But right now, there's nothing really in it. There's a few eggshells and things like that, but we had already used the soil. So once this orange bin gets full enough, we will then empty the contents in here and let it sit. And as you can see too, there's slits on the sides. Again, you want good airflow and circulation. That's really key with your outdoor composting bins. And that is all there really is to composting. Very simple, easy, and doable for anybody. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can also head over to morningchores.com where you can find all kinds of information on gardening, DIY, homesteading, and much, much more. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.